Hello, this is Dr. Jim McGregor. I'd like to introduce you to my video series on lifestyle factors and long-term health. This series will focus on factors such as diet, natural supplements, botanical supplements in particular, herbal remedies, organic and genetically modified foods, and other lifestyle factors with proven health benefits or health detriments that affect our long-term well-being and health. I was motivated to produce this series by my 45+ year career in leadership positions responsible for product safety evaluation and regulation. And during this period, I came to realize that many people tended to focus on things like food additives, pesticide residues, and factors such as that in fact are relatively minimal risks because they're mandated to be well studied and conservative safety margins set and reviewed by regulatory agencies before they can be sold. But people seem to worry about that overly and turn to products that are often much less well regulated because of their mistaken belief that anything natural is inherently safe and healthful. Well, it turns out that that's not at all the case. So botanical supplements, herbal remedies, although people think they've been used for many years without documented adverse health effects. In fact, unless you do prospective testing, certain types of health effects are very difficult to identify. Things like cancer, interactions with other agents such as pharmaceuticals, people that have specific sensitivities due to genetic variation, and so on. So many of these things can't be identified unless you study them prospectively in a laboratory under very controlled settings. But in fact, many natural products are regulated under a separate law from the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. And this law allows many of these products to be sold with very little or sometimes no safety testing. It allows botanical supplement products to make health claims that are not reviewed by any regulatory agency. But it still leaves the responsibility for enforcing safety of these products to the Food and Drug Administration, or in the case of advertising, to the Federal Trade Commission. But without prospective testing, this would mandate that those agencies do the testing themselves. And this testing is extremely expensive. It costs millions of dollars just to do one cancer test, for example. And these regulatory agencies are very underfunded. So the products that are regulated under this natural supplement law, in fact, have very little safety assurance in many, if not most cases. So although this video is an introduction to my video series that I'm about to introduce, I've recently given a community presentation that covers many of the topics that I'll be talking about in this video series. The name of the presentation is Nutrition and Health, and deals with things people worry about and what really matters. That video is available at the website shown on this slide, and I recommend that you take a look at that video, and it will give you a nice introduction to many of the things that I'll cover in more detail in the individual videos in this series. So I encourage you to do that. I've also written a book. The book is entitled A Natural Mistake, and it focuses on product risks that are often misunderstood that are related to natural products. Subtitle is Why Natural, Organic, and Botanical Products Are Not as Safe as You Think. And it goes into more detail than I'll go into even on the individual videos on the topics related to botanical supplements, herbal remedies, why the risks of those products are misunderstood. It talks about the differences in safety standards across different food and drug products, not only natural products and botanical supplements, herbal remedies, but foods, pharmaceuticals, food additives, pesticide residues, and so on. And it gives you a sense for what the differences are in the safety standards and the requirements for testing things before they go on the market, restrictions on what you can say in advertising and so on. Goes into more detail also on examples of unanticipated toxicities that have occurred that are related to botanical products, and what are the difficulties in identifying those kinds of toxicities, even if they're so serious that they're lethal, and once they're out in general usage, and also some of the barriers to enforcement of those products that are regulated under the dietary supplement law. It also talks briefly about one chapter on the health impacts of dietary and lifestyle factors that impact long-term health outcomes. So this is a good reference. If you're able to pick up a copy, I'd recommend perusing it before the videos, but if you want to use it in conjunction with the video series, it'll be very useful because it provides more in-depth references, more in-depth treatment of the topics that I'll be talking about. It's available for $9.99 on Amazon, and you can also click on the electronic version if you get that, and link to web references for more in-depth reading. It's also got better photographs and color than the paperback book. But they're both available. It's available in paperback format, electronic format at Amazon or Barnes & Noble if you want the Nook version. This slide shows some of the specific videos that I plan to make. I'm going to begin with the dangers of botanical supplements and herbal remedies. I'm beginning with that one because I think these two products are a particular risk because they're regulated under a specific law that regulates dietary supplements and includes herbal remedies. And it allows products to be sold without the testing that's required of foods, drugs, food additives, pesticide residues, and so on, that are required under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Botanical supplements and herbal remedies are regulated under the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, and that specifically allows them, if they've been on the market since 1994, to be marketed without any testing at all. And even if they're a new product or a product containing a new ingredient, then FDA has to be notified, but they can still be marketed without pre-market testing and review by the Food and Drug Administration or any other regulatory agency. Further, these are very complex botanical mixtures that contain many different chemical constituents, and the constitution can vary very much depending on parts of the plant, extraction procedures, growing conditions, and so on. So this makes identification of the composition of a particular product particularly difficult. And in addition, this law allows marketing health claims to be made without review by regulatory agencies. Again, this is unlike conventional pharmaceuticals, where any claim that's made has to be reviewed by a regulatory agency and balanced against risks. I'll make a video on plants and why plants, in fact, are not as benign as many people think. They contain many toxic chemicals because if you think of yourself as a plant, you're rooted to the ground and you have many insects and animals trying to eat you. You have plant diseases trying to infect you. And you have a need sometimes to communicate with other plants. So plants make many, many chemicals with biological activity to serve these purposes, to deter predators, prevent diseases, and to communicate among themselves. Now, because botanical supplements and herbal remedies are regulated under this Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, this is a relatively new act. And although the act was passed with the intent of making these products more available, it did not provide the funding for really the necessary regulatory oversight. So this has resulted in a relatively high rate of illegal adulteration, that is, spiking of these products with biologically active materials that might be dangerous. Either approved drug products that are spiked in without review, or other biologically active ingredients that have not been reviewed, that are simply added to provide the biological activity that it's advertised for. Many of these types of products are approved under a so-called safe history of use. I'll make a video just on that topic, why a history of use doesn't assure safety. It's not so bad for acute toxicities, but it really does not assure safety for certain types of toxicities that take a long time to develop, that may result from interaction with other agents, such as pharmaceuticals, or that may depend on specific individual sensitivities, such as certain genetic mutations that people may have that affects the way compounds are detoxified, or whether they affect other products such as drugs that may be able to induce adverse effects. I'll make one video on that provides examples of serious and deadly effects of botanical products. There have been a number of cases where these products have led to really quite serious adverse outcomes, often lethal outcomes, and it's taken quite a while to identify some of them, and then additional time to eventually get them off the market. I'll give you examples of why that happens and why it's a problem, and why the history of use really is not adequate in certain types of these toxicities. I'll talk about organic and genetically modified food products. This is a complicated area that I think many people are not fully familiar with what the regulations and labeling requirements are. So I'll have one video devoted to that. And then I'll have one video devoted to dietary and lifestyle factors that have been proven to have both positive and detrimental effects on health. Aside from food additives and pesticide residues, actually just the nature of a balanced diet, the amount of saturated fats, salt, sugar, and so on in the diet can have rather profound effects on health. So I'll talk about that, dietary factors that are important. Other factors such as exercise, sleep, and so on, and the importance of appropriate vitamin and mineral balance. All of these factors can have quite major effects, much more than the risks from food additives and pesticide residues, which under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act are required to be very carefully studied before they're marketed, and very conservative safety margins have to be set before they're allowed to be marketed to assure that they don't develop the types of toxicity that could happen at very, very high exposures. And then finally, I'll talk a bit about the differences in the laws and regulations and why different products are regulated to different levels of safety standards that are often somewhat different than people assume. So the objective of this series of videos is to provide a perspective on these issues that will allow consumers to have a much better informed set of information about dietary and lifestyle factors that are related to your health and healthy aging, and hopefully to also have some impact on regulators and or legislators to consider some modifications in the laws governing natural versus conventional products that will assure more uniform safety evaluation and regulation among these classes of agents. So I've, during my career, been fortunate to have leadership positions in a number of important programs related to product safety evaluation and regulation. I've been director of the Office of Testing and Research in the Center for Drugs at the Food and Drug Administration, director of the Washington office of the National Center for Toxicological Research, which is the Food and Drug Administration's principal research laboratory. I've been director of the main food safety program of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I've been the director of the toxicology metabolism program at SRI International, which is the former Stanford Research Institute, and they conduct many safety evaluation studies to evaluate problems with products that are already on the market, as well as to provide the basis of the safety information required to get new products onto the market and registered. So during my career, I've become quite well recognized in these areas. And in fact, my opinions on these subjects are still sought by major food and drug companies throughout the world that use me as a consultant regarding some of these safety and health related issues. So I hope that this series of videos will be authoritative and will provide a useful and somewhat comprehensive understanding of the factors that determine the safety assurance and appropriate regulation advertising of these various important types of products and their use, as well as a better understanding of some of the lifestyle factors that can benefit you, such as appropriate dietary balance with appropriate vitamin mineral mix and control of obesity, exercise, sleep, and those factors that have been proven to have very major effects on long-term well-being and health. This next slide shows how you can follow the video releases and participate in discussions about the videos after they're released. So I'd recommend, if you're not on Twitter already, to join it and follow me at my address at jtmcgregor2, and I'll then be able to tweet you announcements when the videos appear, but more importantly, you'll be able to participate in discussions about questions people submit, or to submit questions yourself, and to participate in that dialogue that I'll maintain in conjunction with the video series. You can also follow my website at jtmcgregor.com, or if you prefer to just receive an email announcement when a new video becomes available, you can email me at my email address, jtmcgregor101@gmail.com. You can sign up, or you can go to my website above, and there's a link there where you can also request announcements via email about the videos. So I would recommend that you get onto Twitter, because I think the question and answer sessions in conjunction with the videos should be quite useful. And it would also be extremely useful if you would go to the existing videos and follow them on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and follow on YouTube the videos, when there are enough followers, then I'll be able to have a dedicated channel on YouTube to this video series. So I think that will be convenient and useful to have, and I got to have 100 people following it before they'll allow it to be an individual channel. So I'd appreciate if you also did that on YouTube. So thank you for your interest, and I look forward to sharing and discussing the videos in this series.